Hello, friends. Welcome back to Market Shares. I'm your host, Tony Blodgett. And today I have a very special guest, someone that I've been wanting to get on this podcast for quite a while, and actually someone who inspired me to start Market Shares in the first place. He may not know that, but I want to introduce you to my friend, Phil Treadwell. Phil, welcome to Market Shares.
Tony, I appreciate you having me, my friend. I appreciate the kind words. I am very excited about any quality content and good podcast for the industry. So kudos to you, my friend.
Yeah, well, thank you. Well, I actually watched some interviews with you before I started Market Shares, and I remember you talking about, your first few episodes and how you really went out and got some really, bright stars in the mortgage industry. And that's one of the reasons I have you on, man. You have become a bright star in the industry. You're someone who's speaking at events regularly. You're running a coaching company. I want to talk about that. And so at this point, I feel like you're a real thought leader that people are gravitating to. I think your message is a little unique and different from other people in your space, and really something that people need to hear more about today, and something that I'm excited to share with our audience because there's a lot of need for tactical ideas in a market like this. People need to shift and pivot and get creative, but there's also this cycle, more than any other ones that I've dealt with, is just wearing on people. And that's where you tend to focus, is on the mindset. Phil runs M1 Academy Mindset First. Is it Academy? Mindset, did I get that right? M1 Academy? Yeah, Mindset First. And, although when I met you, I believe you were working at Thrive Mortgage. You were in the mortgage space. I think you were a regional or ran a team. I don't remember exactly what you did, but I thought of you as a mortgage professional, and you've been able to fully transition into really just supporting folks in the mortgage space around this concept of M1. So maybe just quick introduction of M1 Academy, really what you guys focus on, and then I'm looking forward to kind of unpacking how some of your work is not only helping people that you've been working with, but how it might help some of the people in our audience. And maybe there's some good takeaways that people could have just from this podcast that are going to help them with their mindset. So tell us a little bit about M1 and how that got started.
Well, I appreciate that opportunity. The premise of M1 Academy is just what you said. M1 stands for Mindset First. I don't think mindset is the only thing that's going to help people be successful, but it is the most important thing. Our mindset controls our attitude and our actions, and those are the only two things that we can actually control. We can't control the market. We can't control our clients. We sure can't control our partners. What we can control is what we do and how we respond to things. I think most mortgage professionals know what to do to build their business, or they wouldn't still be in the business. But most of them aren't building it at the level that they're capable of, and there's some reason for that. And that's typically a mindset thing. 92% of people don't achieve their goals on an annual basis, statistically. And the two reasons are, one, they're either not clear about what it is they're trying to accomplish in detail, or two, they just don't want it bad enough. So when you talk about mindset, you have to understand your why and how that creates a unique value offer. And a unique value offer is not something that no one else can do. It's what you do in a unique way. How do you show up unique to your clients, to your partners? And then turning that into your, and then turning that into your messaging and in your marketing. How do you show up for people? How do you have that attraction balance? How do you reach out? You've also got to understand what your North Star is. What's your ultimate goal? What's that objective? And how do you break that down into milestones, into specific detailed goals, and then create habits and non-negotiables around it so that you can show up every day and be proactive. We all know that stuff happens to us in the mortgage business. It's a very reactive situation. Well, if you have daily habits, if you have non-negotiables, then you have your calendar appointments and you know what it is you're doing. No matter what's happening to you, you can still move the needle on a daily basis. And that's what we do. We don't just coach on one type of lead generation or lead conversion or attraction marketing and social media. We want to help people create a strategy for themselves that's not only going to help them become successful, but is organic and sustainable to them individually. So that's really the premise. And it just got started because I'd been a non-producing, regional VP, national director for companies. I started a production team in 2022 whenever it was very, very difficult. and we had a lot of success, and people were saying, open up your playbook. So we started doing some workshops. We started opening up the tactical playbook, and people were getting results, but again, not at the level that I felt like they should have. And we realized we were underestimating this foundation of mindset. And I had a business coach at the time said, this is the direction you need to go in. This is what you're passionate about. So we ripped the Band-Aid and made it happen. And here we are a year and a half later and having a lot of fun and helping a lot of people.
Yeah, I see a lot of themes with people that have your kind of success, Phil. And one of them is, here you are running a coaching company and you have a coach. You guys, there's no surprise. We've talked about this a lot on this podcast. Get the support, get the mentorship, get the coaching. And maybe, Phil's message is something that resonates with you. So I want to kind of back this up a little bit and understand, really the ideal, I don't know, I want to say client, but the ideal person who might reach out to you. I talked to a lot of loan officers, and many of them have found themselves in a spot where they've been doing this for 10 years, 15 years, right? They always had really good success. And then up until 2020, 2021, they had this amazing success. I think everyone obviously is off, most people are off 50% maybe from where they were at that peak. But I'm finding a lot of people who, after, the big rush that was COVID, for whatever reason, maybe they, took a breather, right? Because that was exhausting, or they stepped back, or maybe the business, well, we know the business has pivoted and they haven't pivoted with it. But I talk to a lot of people who feel like I can't even regain the same footing that I had back in 2018 and 19. Not to no one expects to be able to, duplicate the success that we had, very much market driven for many of us in 20 and 21, but they're not even getting back to that baseline level of success. And they're starting to feel a little bit like, it's me. Like, I can't do it anymore. I've lost this kind of edge. Is that something that you're experiencing with people? And when someone comes to you in that state, if that's something that happens, Phil, how do you, where do you start with someone who's in that position to really get them to a place of maybe recognizing that it is a mindset shift that needs to happen first? Doesn't mean there isn't tactical stuff they need to be doing differently, but they got to realize and recognize that there's a shift in mindset. And many of them are, I don't want to say depressed, but they're definitely concerned about, is this the right industry for me? Am I doing the things that I should be doing? What's changed? So any thoughts on that? Because I come across this a lot.
I do as well. I think the first thing that people have to realize is, just like you said, a level of success from a production standpoint that people had in 20 and 21, that's not a real market. So you have these people that had a certain level of production and then label themselves that level of producer, when you need to have some self-awareness that was extra. That's not necessarily the core level of producer that you actually are. But people are beat up right now. Some are depressed, some are frustrated, but people are beat up because we've, been told over and over, this is just a short downturn, or on this month and year and this day, rates are going to change. And the first thing that I let people know whenever we're talking about whether it's 18 and 19 or 20 and 21 or 22 to 24, whatever the season of the market is, there's opportunities in every single market. We have this short-term memory that we only look at the last cycle that was opposite of the one that we're in. Because the way I remember 2019 is people were struggling. There were some P&Ls that were getting beat up. There were some companies that were having to come up with some cash. It wasn't a super exciting time in 2019. COVID came along, gave us a shot in the arm. And then as that faded, people were like, well, that's what the mortgage business really is. That's the level of production that we're supposed to be able to do. But we have to understand two things. The first one, what I just said, there's opportunities in every market. So what is the opportunity in this market? I think it's a lot around helping people understand how they can achieve their goals through home ownership, how they can achieve their goals through creating wealth with real estate, whether that's net worth or passive income. Statistically, according to the Social Security Administration, 98% of people at age 65 cannot financially support themselves alone. A third have to depend on the government, including Social Security. A third have to continue to work, and a third have to depend on family. So one of the biggest challenges that people are going to be looking at over the next 10, 20 years when you talk about Gen Xers and even older millennials is, what is their money going to look like? What's their retirement and net worth going to look like? How do you solve problems for people? Find those opportunities. Interest rate doesn't matter in those situations. When you look at passive income, it doesn't matter what the interest rate is, because rent rates are going to continue to increase as rates and payments go up. That's just part of the cycle. The second thing people have to understand is the industry's not the same as it was, because the world's not the same as it was. The way that we are as consumers, I mean, from buying something on Amazon, I call it the Amazonification of the world. In the DFW market in Dallas-Fort Worth, where I live, when I go buy something on Amazon, I click Prime, and if that product doesn't show up the same day or next day, I look at something different. Whenever it's not been that long ago, whenever we paid for shipping to get it in 2 weeks, and Amazon came along and said, hey, we'll give you free shipping in a few days, right? The world has changed. We go buy a car and pretty much everything's done on a tablet, an iPad, or whatever. And we wonder why in this industry we try to go back to what we did in an earlier season or a different time, and we're shooting an email with a list of 15 docs that they need to print out and sign or scan and send to us, and wonder why people are frustrated. Guys, we have to be relevant in today's market. What does that mean? Consumer attention has changed. The way that you add value to referral partners has changed. The way that you interact with your clients has changed. You have clients that would rather you send them a Instagram or Facebook DM or a text message instead of a phone call. So just because we've always done it one way doesn't mean that's how it needs to get done. And so whenever we have these conversations with people about back to the basics, it's not back to the basics and doing it the same way, because if I went back to the basics, when I first was an originator and got in the business, I walked around and cold called real estate offices with black and white photocopied flyers where you could see the scotch tape lines where I'd cut out my boss's flyers and scotch taped them to a piece of letterhead and whited out the fax number at the bottom, right? But the premise and the principle that made that a successful time in my career, where I was doing 50, 60, 70 units a month. Now, I think that first year I did 56 units, only 2 of them were over $100,000. But the premise that made it successful is it was about relationships. I was walking around and meeting people and having conversations. Okay, how do we do that and make that relevant now? Well, the first thing isn't just posting on social media. Maybe it's interacting with people on social media. Maybe instead of calling and asking referral partners for business, you just say, hey, it's a tough market right now. How are you doing? I know you guys got a lot going on with this NAR lawsuit. How are things, right? Don't necessarily say, what can I do for you? Because they're expecting you to know what to do for them. Ask them, hey, what's your focus right now? Because if you ask someone what their focus is, a lot of times they'll give you a pain point or something they're struggling with. Cool. That's now an opportunity that you can add value to them. That's a problem that you can potentially solve for them. But we're overthinking this whole situation about, oh, well, I'm not the caliber of loan officer I was in 2018 or 2019. Well, the first question I ask is, what are you doing differently? It's not about the principles that made you successful. It's, are you applying those principles in a relevant way today? Because the world has changed, and it's changing faster every single year.
Yeah. So you mentioned earlier, and I love that answer. Thank you. And I agree. You know, we can't, I kind of wish we could just take those old flyers and, you know, photocopy our business card on them and take them out. I mean, that's kind of how I made sales calls back in the 90s. And you're right. You know, that wouldn't work very well today. So let's assume that you can meet with a loan officer and we can overcome this mindset of, okay, you know, that makes sense. There's some tactical things that I could do. You know, what are some things that are going to help them maintain that mindset? And then I want to get into, after that, I want to ask you about what you mentioned about how do you then make that part of your brand? Because that's a very different thing, you know, and so I want to understand that better. But let's just say you have a consultation with someone, or maybe it's a couple meetings, and there's like a light bulb that goes on and says, okay, you know, I get this, but you need to maintain that every day. You got to wake up every morning with that right mindset. And, you know, I've talked a little bit on this podcast about my journey, with health and with sleep and with alcohol and all of those things, I know that you too, have made some shifts and, with health and things like that, just because I've followed your story a little bit. Is that the same kind of advice that you're giving people, is about, the routines in their life, the morning routine, getting enough sleep, eating right? Are those the kind of things that you would be coaching someone on in order to, once they recognize that the mindset needs to shift, to maintain that mindset that's necessary to get to the point where you can actually make it part of your brand and how people think about you? Am I on the right track there, or is there some other things you'd add in there?
Yeah, I think that definitely yes, but I think that's just a part of it. So the first part that you're talking about from a physical standpoint is it's very, very difficult to have a positive mindset when you physically feel like crap. So maybe that is getting a little more sleep. Maybe that's drinking more water or eating a little bit better from a food perspective. I'm not advocating that people have to, get up really early in the morning and go work out for an hour, hour and a half. I choose to do that because I'm a night owl. I love the mortgage business because I could sleep until 7:30, 8 o'clock, get up, go to the office, and still beat most of my referral partners and realtors in. But what I realized is that really highly successful people were waking up early and building in a morning routine. You don't have to do that the same way, but you do have to understand that physically, if you don't feel good, you're not going to typically feed your mind the right way. That's why when someone is stressed or struggling or frustrated and they say, well, go take a few deep breaths or go for a walk, biologically what's happening is you're oxygenating your blood. That oxygenated blood's going to your brain. Your brain's now releasing feel-good hormones, dopamine, serotonin, endorphins, and that's going to make you feel a little bit better. But that's just part of it. The way that people can make it sustainable long-term is you've got to have daily habits. And daily habits need to be in different categories of your life and of your business. And at M1 Academy, we teach F5, faith, family, finance, fitness, focus. Another easy way to remember it is spiritual, mental, physical, emotional, financial. If you'll pick one or two things in each one of those categories that you do on a daily basis, that's going to move the needle. See, what happens is our mind only distinguishes between wins and losses, but not how big they are. So if you take some daily habits that you can get some little wins in, especially in a morning routine, if you get up a little bit earlier, you decide to go to the gym, you listen to a podcast, maybe you post some content, reach out to a few people, say some affirmations, take some quiet time, whatever you do, when you start your day, even if you bomb that first phone call, what happens is like, well, that was a negative. I bombed that phone call, but I made my bed. Those cancel each other out. I still have all these other wins that I've stacked up, and that creates momentum. And momentum will create more motivation. We love checking things off a list or marking things off a to-do list. We're like, okay, let's go do more. And so we can trick our mind into creating some momentum. That momentum will lead you to want to do more. The other thing that it creates that I talk about a lot that I think people need to hear is it also creates confidence. We think confidence is this personality trait that we're just born with, but confidence is actually a skill that you learn. And really successful people understand that if I stack these wins and create that momentum, I now have the confidence to go do more. And that confidence is important because we realize that these little wins, these little habits that we've done, they move the needle way more than those losses do. But we fixate on the losses. We fixate on the things we didn't get done as opposed to recognizing all the things that we do. And that's how it's sustainable for people, because then it isn't about the results. We need to stop focusing on the outcome and the goal and start focusing on the process. Focus on the things that we're doing on a daily basis and go to bed at night and say, okay, I may not have got the results that I wanted, but I did put in a lot of work, and those are going to build on top of themselves. So that's how people can maintain a positive mindset. So the physical part is there, but it's also those other categories where they all play together. If you elevate yourself in one category, you're going to elevate yourself in another. It doesn't take away from those other things. We're expanding beings. We'll actually grow in all those areas.
Yeah. Well, if you're listening to this podcast, rewind and listen to what Phil just said at least 2 more times, because Phil, that was gold. That was a phenomenal answer to that question. And I think you really encapsulated in that exactly what people can do that are feeling a little bit stuck right now. Man, that is really good stuff. I'm going to go back and listen to that again. Okay, so that all makes a lot of sense to me, and I love that approach. Now, I also just want to, before I talk about kind of building this into kind of your brand, your marketing, that you touched on, I want to understand that. But you also mentioned that in your coaching, you still do a lot of tactical coaching as well, right? And just for reference, are you just coaching in the mortgage space? Is it mortgage and real estate, or are you outside of those spaces also?
I would say the far majority are mortgage professionals. We do have some real estate professionals, and we have a couple of insurance. So it's kind of all within our industry.
Okay. And so, but it's not all about mindset, right? There's still some tactical training. I mean, you have many years of experience of leading mortgage teams, being, on a production team, in a production team, running a production team. So maybe just talk a little bit about that. Like how do you weave in some of the tactical with some of the mindset? And then if you're someone who's looking to grow and evolve, like how much of my time should I be spending on my mindset improvement and how much really on the tactical part of my growth?
It's a difficult answer to quantify specifically. When someone asks, how much do I need to do? Like, how many phone calls do I need to make? How many text messages? How many posts? How much of whatever? My answer is always more, because you're doing a certain amount of it and it's not getting you the results you want. So the answer is more. But what I would say is that tactically, unless you understand your why you do what you do truly, and you've got to unpack that. Most people, it's around, making good money, or I want to help people. Well, what's significant about you helping people? And then they'll give another answer. If you've read the book Blue Fishing by Steve Sims, you have to ask people 3 or 4 times why before you get to the answer. They say what they think they're supposed to say, and then what they think you want to hear, and then it takes a little more time before you get to the root of it. Once you've unpacked your why, you now have a unique value offer. In times that I've done that with people in the past, I had one of my clients, she said, I want to help people. Okay, that's awesome. What's significant about helping people? She's like, well, I want to help them create financial security, because when you own a home, you can create financial security. That's awesome. What's important about that for you? Well, come to find out, she was one of 3 kids to a single mom, and they moved around a lot. So she couldn't do extracurriculars. She didn't have a lot of friends because she couldn't invite friends over. When her mom got a job where she could afford a house, that was all the happy memories from her childhood, because she could do extracurriculars. She could have friends over. So she equates happiness to financial security. Well, now what happens from a tactical perspective when someone says, what do you do? And this is a side tip. If someone asks you what you do and you're saying I'm a loan officer or I'm a mortgage professional, you've already screwed up, because everyone knows that. What we figured out for her one-liners, when someone said, what do you do? She said, I'm a mortgage advisor that helps people create financial security through home ownership. Whenever I had my production team, we were your BREW team. And BREW is an acronym for Build Real Estate Wealth. So when someone said, what do you do? I said, I have a mortgage practice that helps people build real estate wealth. Because we all know that's in the industry, when you say you're a loan officer, what's the first thing they ask about? What are rates doing right now? We've got to change the conversation. So from a mindset perspective, when you understand your why and create your unique value offer from something in your past that happened to you or didn't happen to you, and you create that unique value offer, you can now figure out, what's my one-liner? What's my messaging and my marketing? What type of problems do I solve for people? It's the same thing with your habits as we work back from your big goals to your smaller goals and those short-term goals into your habits. Then it's okay, well, I need to balance outbound lead generation with inbound attraction marketing and social media. What things do I need to do? Well, if we've done the mindset foundation work, the answer is pretty simple. Maybe you hate getting phone calls and you hate making phone calls. Okay, great. Let's do some text messages. Let's do some DMs. Let's figure out a way to engage with people on social media. So once you have a conversation, you can take those offline into the one-on-one conversations that we're all after in the first place. So from a tactical perspective, 3/4 of it, 2/3 of it is about the tactical stuff. But if you don't build it on the right foundation of your mindset and those core things that are relevant to you, what are your natural talents and build skill around? If you don't do it from that place, it's not sustainable. I can't tell you the number of people that have come and said, what are the 5 things that I need to do? What are my 7 steps to success? Even if I gave that to someone, unless it's organic to them, unless it's a strategy that works for them, even if they get some short-term results, it won't be sustainable, or worse, it doesn't work for them at all. Most people, unfortunately, don't have the self-awareness to say, well, that was the right principle, I just didn't apply it the right way to me. They're like, well, those didn't work, and they go searching for 5 more things. And unfortunately, and I won't mention any names, there's a lot of coaching companies that say, here's the things you need to do. And some people are going to get some results from that. But as soon as you stop doing that thing, you either lose the results or you get frustrated because they're not working for you the way they work for someone else. So our whole premise is, how do we unpack what's organic to you? What are your natural talents so that we can build something that achieves your goals and is sustainable?
Yeah. Well, that makes a lot of sense. And I think you've kind of touched on it a little bit about how you then take your why, take that mindset around your why and start building that into your branding and your marketing. That's kind of what you were touching on with that tagline. Is there more to expand on that portion of it? Like, as far as creating your brand and even your marketing around obviously your why, but is mindset in general something that people lean on and lead with when it comes to their approach to the marketplace and marketing and social media?
I think so. And I don't think it has to be an external thing that you showcase, but it is a great way to figure out what to talk about. And I actually was doing a coaching group for another company this morning, and we were talking about mindset in terms of how do you use it to create content, to do video, to reach people. And a couple of the things that we talked about is, the first one is convert your fears into curiosity. Things that you're scared of doing, you can be curious about it and share that with people. Essentially saying, hey, this is something that I didn't like doing, but I tried it and here's what I learned from it. You can also use those times where you're in a rough mindset, where maybe you got beat up during the day, and you can showcase that and let people know how you solved that problem for yourself or how you solved other people's problems. So mindset is what we have to think about from ourselves, and how do we become authentic and become relevant to other people. But I also think we need to get into the mindset of our consumer. Most of the messaging of what people are hearing from the media. Well, we all know the media's motto is, if it bleeds, it leads. So they're not hearing the importance of home ownership, the importance of building wealth with real estate. They're hearing all the doom and gloom. So if we're not there to change that narrative and put them in a place where they're excited about what we do, then they don't want to talk to us. We forget, because we're in the industry, that this is actually a very, very scary thing, right? Your CPAs see your income. Your financial advisor sees your assets. We see their income, their assets, their credit, all of the things. And that's a thing where people have some anxiety. So when someone calls you and starts asking questions about a loan, you immediately need to push the pause button and say, hey, we'll get your questions answered. But I just want to tell you, I'm excited that you're in the home buying journey. Hey, what's significant about this home purchase for you? How important would it be for you to become a first-time home buyer? If we're having those conversations with people, we change the narrative and we get them excited about a process that most people are not excited about, that most people dread for all intents and purposes. So if we use that to say, okay, who is my ideal audience? I teach a 3-step marketing formula. The first step is understanding who is my target market, who's my ideal audience. Get super clear. Geographically, demographically, how old are they? What are the problems they have? What's their lifestyle? The second is, what problem do I solve for them? What's some value that I can add? What's a solution I can present to them? And then the third step is, what's the most effective medium or place to deliver that solution and value to that audience? So if you take mindset and try to put it in, what are my clients, what are my partners thinking, and figure out ways to solve problems for them, then all of a sudden what's the right social media platform, or what's the right marketing platform, or where do I need to be in the community? And that all starts with mindset. That's why mindset's first. Is if you just go out throwing darts and trying to hit something, people smell the desperation on you. Realtors smell the desperation on you. You've got to be deliberate and intentional with who you're talking to and what you're talking about. And the first step is to figure out, what are the challenges they have? What are they thinking about? What are some problems I can solve?
Yeah. Well, you are giving some great advice. I couldn't agree with that more. I'm curious, when I think about mindset, Phil, I think about just generally having a positive attitude, right? And optimism. I know when I would make a lot of sales calls, I was always tried to be super positive. Now, I'm a realist and I understand challenges in the market and whatnot, but a lot of people tend to gravitate towards commisery and just like the news likes to talk about negative things, people like to talk about the carnage in the market. What's your thoughts around leading with optimism, finding that silver lining, and then kind of being that lighthouse, if you will, when you're out talking to people, obviously a lot of mortgage professionals here. So if you're out talking to realtors and you have a different approach, like when people say, "Hey, how's things?" You go, "Oh man, it's brutal." And well, that's what everyone's saying right now. What if you said, "You know what? There's some challenges in the market, but I'm super excited about whatever," right? And it's to be like, what? Like, I haven't heard anyone say they're excited right now. So what are your thoughts around just embodying that in your kind of mannerisms, in your conversation? Do you coach people around kind of being that person that I've found that people want to be around positive people more often because they want to be lifted up. They want someone who's going to give them a different perspective than maybe what they're hearing on the news or what everyone else is saying. What are your thoughts around that? And how do you help someone recognize, even if they're like, "Well, I'm a realist, man, I just call it how it is." It's like, okay, well, that might not be helping yourself right now. Maybe people need something different than that.
They do. And this is something that we coach on a lot, especially in our group coaching calls. I'll give you two very specific examples of why what you're saying is very important. I had a guest on my podcast named Dennis Yu. Dennis is the founder of Blitz Metrics, and Blitz Metrics is a marketing company that does Facebook ads and social media ads for really, really large companies, not even in the mortgage space. And one of the things that he talked about is we all know that video is the most engaged type of content. I think it's like 60% or 2/3 of all web traffic on planet Earth is streaming video of some type, right? Even, the Netflix and whatever, like video is the most engaged type of content. But within video, the subcategory of social media videos that are watched the most, that are the most popular and the most engaging are gratitude videos. And if we unpack this for a second, a gratitude video can be something as simple as, "Hey, it's been cloudy and rainy the last couple of days. I'm just excited the sun's out. I get to go out and get some sun time, whatever. I hope you guys are having a great day." That's going to get a lot more attention because, to your point, so much of the content we consume is the negative content. So much of the conversations we have are the doom and gloom. You could be thanking somebody for something or appreciative. Just being optimistic falls into the category of gratitude videos. The other example that I'll use is there's a guy named Mr. Thank You, and he's got a really cool story. Obviously, don't have time for it today, but I highly recommend you listen to that episode as well. And one of the things that we talked about in there is we all have people that call us on the phone, or we get a text message from, like, "Oh, so-and-so's calling. Oh man, I got a text message from that person." What would it take for us to be the person that when we called someone or we sent them a text message like, "Oh, sweet, Tony's calling. Tony sent me a text message." For you to get, whenever you have people like that call you or send you a message, what type of person are they? What do they talk about? Typically, they're not calling to gripe about something or complain about something or to talk about how bad things are. They're talking about something cool that happened. They're talking about something that they're grateful for. They're talking about an opportunity. Like we said in the very beginning, how do you find opportunities? How do you spread that excitement, that enthusiasm, that optimism? If you can capture that in your life and in your business, you will attract people to you. That's really what this whole thing is about, is how do you attract people to you? That's what marketing is. Marketing and sales are different. Marketing is about getting someone's attention, attracting people to you. Sales is once you develop rapport or relationship and you have a call to action. So many loan officers think they're marketing and they're just selling. Okay, what would get your attention when you're scrolling? What makes you stop? What makes you pay attention? Now, if you can figure out the strategy that works for you, something you enjoy doing, I don't care if it has to do with the business or not. You can talk about a hobby. You can talk about cool things that are happening. You can talk about cool things that are happening to someone else or in another part of the world. People will pay attention. And the more people that pay attention, they'll stick around for the other stuff. They'll stick around for your mortgage and real estate videos. They'll stick around for a call to action. But I use the example, when I was a kid, there were 3 channels, which meant when the president's on, your night was shot, right? And if there were too many commercials, what'd you do? You changed the channel. Now apply that to your social media. Whenever it's all commercials and it's all call to action, it's all salesy, people stop paying attention. If you want people to pay attention, talk about something that they want to hear, that they find valuable. Sometimes that's as simple as to stop being negative and start talking about positive things.
Yeah, 100%. Well, this has been an awesome conversation, Phil. I'm so glad that we were able to make this work and get you on to Market Shares. I want to talk a little bit about your podcast really quick. Like I said, you have been doing a podcast for, I think you told me 6 years, mortgage marketing experts. Where can we find that? I mean, obviously all the obvious places, but maybe give a quick plug for your podcast. And as soon as you're done watching Market Shares, you can go watch Phil's podcast. No, I'm joking. They're all good. So tell us about that. What kind of content are you putting on there, and who should come check that out?
And anybody that's looking to grow, I appreciate the opportunity. You can go to mmepodcast.com. You'll find the link tree. We're on all of the major podcast platforms and probably some of the smaller ones. You can go to mortgagemarketingexpert.com to see the list, or if you go to my website, philtreadwell.com, there's a podcast tab. It's pretty easy to find. And we talk about all kinds of things. We talk about mindset. We talk about tactics. We talk about strategy. It's really evolved over the last, 5.5, 6 years. We originally were talking very, very specifically about the tactical things, and we've continued to grow and evolve in that. And there's going to be a lot of names that you recognize. We've had a lot of the who's who throughout the industry, and we're going to get Tony on the podcast as soon as we can squeeze ourselves into his busy schedule, and then he's going to come be a guest as well. So appreciate any listens. We love the feedback. If there's an episode you liked, or even if you didn't like, we always want to learn and grow and try to add as much value as we can.
All right. And then let's talk about M1. Where do we find it? Look, I'm a huge fan of people getting coached in this industry. What Phil's doing is a little different. If you're looking for something different, but still very tactical and helping you with your social media, helping you with ideas for your sales strategies, but wrapping that all in with a foundation of getting the right mindset, understanding your why, and the things that Phil talked about today, I would definitely encourage you to check out M1. Phil, where can they find you there? And then we'll call this episode a wrap.
Yeah, just go to philtreadwell.com. You'll see M1 Academy, or if you want to type in the whole thing, it's just philtreadwell.com/coaching. We have a one-on-one program as well as a group coaching program. A lot of value. We have an entire member portal that has our group call archives, our past workshops and webinars, and the workshops are always very tactical. We've got one coming up in May where we're going to talk about sales funnels and lead funnels. The one we just did was called Extreme Efficiency. It was a 4-part series where we talk about utilizing everything from your CRM to AI and Chat GPT to create efficiencies in your business. And, go check it out. If you want to have a short, one-on-one call to ask some questions and see if it's a fit for you, feel free to reach out. You can find me on the socials everywhere at Phil Treadwell, and I'd love to chat with you. If M1 Academy is not a fit, I got a lot of good friends that have other coaching programs, and we'll make sure you get to the right place.
100%. And we'll try to have our team put in the comments of this video some of those links so it's easy for you guys to find. Check out Phil. Look, you got to plug into something, and like Phil said, there's lots of options out there. Phil's one of them. I think he's a great one. He's a good friend. Phil, thank you for your time today. To our audience, thank you for your time and for your attention. And thank you for your referrals and letting people know about Market Shares. That's how we're going to grow, is by people talking about it and people letting people know, like, hey, I got some value from this. If you did, please share this with someone. And if you want to see our next episode, subscribe. We launch a new episode every Friday at 10 a.m. And until then, you guys take care. Phil, my friend, you take care, and we'll see you guys later. Bye for now.
Thanks for having me.